1927 Mississippi River. This flood is referred to as the Great Flood. It occurred in 1927 along the Mississippi River. It was a several month buildup with heavy rainfall that ended up causing the the flood itself, which had a devastating effect on the area around it. There are many factors to the flooding. One of the easiest factors to identify is heavy rain. The more rain, the more likely it is for extreme flooding to occur. However, the seasons also contribute to these storms, as certain weather conditions that are specific to certain times of the years produce larger storms. In the case of Mississippi, there was more rainfall over a very long period of time than the Mississippi River could handle, causing man-made tools that control the river, such as the levee, to break and cause more flooding. The waters from the flood went as high as 30 feet. The height was built up over months of rainfall. The overall area affected by this flood was 27,000 square miles. After one of the levees that was built to control the river was broken, the river reached towns at an unthinkable distance away from the river. According to one of our sources, it reached towns 60 miles away from the river. Every year, the Mississippi River floods, but it is rarely this severe. Part of the problem was also caused by the other human factors, such as deforestation. Without vegetation, it is harder or it's actually easier for the rain to pile up, causing more flooding.
During the Great Flood of 1927 caused for hundreds of thousands of people to become displaced near the lower Mississippi River, with some 250 people dying. In some places, residential areas were submerged in 30 feet of water. It took up to 2 months for the floodwater to completely subside. This flood caused for the African Americans to switch for loyalty from anti-slavery Republican Party to the Democratic Party. Also, this disaster contributed to the Great Migration, when millions of African Americans, predominantly from the South, to move up north. The flood was also inspired folklore, music, literature, and films. There's a song by Kansas Ho McCoy and Memphis Minis, "When the Levee Breaks," and Led Zeppelin's "Louisiana 1927. It is estimated that if the Great Mississippi Flood, the largest flood disaster in the U.S. history, it would cost $160 billion in economic damages. Also, two-thirds of the total would be a result of residential damage, and the other third would be from commercial and industrial properties. In 1927, the flood inundated parts of Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, and Tennessee, causing approximately $400 million in loss. The flood inundations 27,000 square miles in several states and is estimated at over $4 million in 1927 dollars, but in today's money, it would be equivalent to over $5 billion. In 1927, Herbert Hoover, Commerce Secretary, was appointed as the official to lead the rescue and relief efforts. He coordinated efforts to rescue 3,300,000 people from rooftops and other high places. In Greenville, Mississippi area, large numbers of African Americans were left stranded on the intact sections of the levees. White planters were concerned that if they were relocated from the levee, they would leave the area and never return to work the fields. Many did take this opportunity to escape to cities like Chicago, bringing their stories of misery of the flood and breaking levees to enrich their traditions of blue music. Those left in the camps were mistreated. A commissioner was appointed by Herbert Hoover. The findings were suppressed, which helped to change the political affiliation of African Americans. Out of this catastrophic flood grew the Flood Control of 1928, which gave the federal government authority over the containment of the Mississippi River. This eventually led to the creation of a Mississippi River and Tributaries Project. Property damage was estimated at $350 million, and economic losses were estimated $1 billion in 1927 dollars. Over 750,000 people were without food and water, clothing, or work, with many criticizing the government for favoring white population during rescue and relief operations. Thousands of plantation workers, mostly African Americans, were forced to work near the levees near Greenville, Mississippi. As waters rose, they were left stranded for days without food or water. African Americans were forced to go to relief camps and also had to participate in relief efforts while receiving unfair treatment. At least one African American man was shot for refusing to work. No one was prepared for how massive a flood would have impacted their homes, with hundreds of thousands of people feeling the one of 150 Red Cross tent camps all over the affected states. Most of the evacuees stayed in the campus for weeks, and some even stayed months. President Calvin Coolidge created a quasi-governmental commission that included members of his cabinet and the American National Red Cross. This commission encouraged the public to donate funds to the relief effort. There were levees in place, which can both be natural and artificial wall that blocks water from going to places where we don't want them to go. They prevent rivers from flooding cities during storm surges. However, the Great Flood of 1927, due to the consistent heavy precipitation, the levee near the lower part of the Mississippi River gave out.